The auction sold like trash. The air was hot and heavy inside the alien auction house. Strange creatures filled the place, all different shapes and colors. Their voices echoed like growls, clicks, and strange whispers. Some were laughing. Others were shouting prices. The smell was strong like metal, smoke, and fear. In the middle of the room, under bright lights, stood a long line of cages. Inside them were slaves. Some cried. Some stared with empty eyes. Some didn't even move anymore. In the last cage, chained and silent, was a young alien girl. Her skin was pale with a soft glow, and her eyes were like small moon silver and full of sadness. Her arms were thin. Her back had marks, old wounds that told a story of pain. Her name, even she had forgotten it. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just waited for her turn. A loud horn sounded. Next one. The auction master shouted. Guards dragged her out. They pushed her forward onto a small stage. The crowd turned to look. Some laughed when they saw her weak body. Others made rude comments. Too skinny. She won't last a week. 10 credits. That's all she's worth. The auction master lifted her chain. Here she is. Half human, half mystery. Young, and still alive. Who will take her? Silence. Then one voice said, 10 credits. The crowd laughed. That was too low even for a slave. But no one offered more. Going once, going twice. The hammer came down. Sold. The girl didn't lift her head. She didn't care who bought her. Pain was pain, no matter the face. The buyer stepped forward. He was not like the others. He was human. He wore a long brown coat, dusty boots, and had a scar under his left eye. His face was calm, almost kind, but his eyes were tired like someone who had seen too much war. The guards gave him the chain. He looked at it for a moment, then unlocked the collar. The girl looked up, confused. No one ever removed the chain. You don't need this, he said softly. She didn't speak. He pulled out a small blanket from his bag and gently placed it over her shoulders. Let's go. You're safe now. The crowd watched in silence as the two left the market. Some laughed again. That human's crazy, one alien said. Wasting credits on broken slaves. But the man didn't care. Outside, the sky was red. 2 suns were setting, and dust blew across the road. He walked slowly, and she followed, bare feet hitting the hot ground. She still expected him to shout, to hit, to sell her again. That's how life had always been. But he said nothing. No orders, no ropes, just quiet. They reached a small ship, old but clean. He helped her inside and sat her down. Then he gave her food, soft bread and water. She stared at it. Was it poisoned? Was this a test? He didn't force her. He just said, eat if you want. You must be hungry. She waited, watched him. He turned away and started the ship. Finally, she took a bite. Her hands shook. She ate fast, like an animal, and he didn't stop her. He only nodded once and said, there's more if you need. When she finished, she curled up in the corner, hugging the blanket. Her eyes stayed open. She didn't trust sleep, but in the quiet hum of the ship, with her stomach full and her hands free, a strange thought came into her mind. Maybe he won't hurt me. Maybe the stars outside the ship moved like slow rivers of light. It was quiet, too quiet. She had never felt this kind of silence before. Back at the slave camps, silence meant danger. It meant someone was about to scream or die. But here, there was no shouting, no chains, no whip, only the hum of the ship, like a soft machine breathing. She didn't understand it. He hadn't touched her, hadn't asked her name, hadn't asked anything at all. Was he waiting for something? The man sat in the front seat, flying the ship. He didn't speak, just focused on the stars. His hands moved calmly over the controls, like he had done this 100 times. She watched him from the back. Her body was wrapped in the blanket he gave. Her fingers curled around it like a shield. She couldn't sleep. Her mind kept whispering, it's a trick. They all pretend at first. They smile. Then, they break you. She had seen too many kind faces turn cruel. Suddenly, the man stood up. Her heart jumped. But he didn't come toward her. He went to a small storage box, pulled out a folded shirt and pants, and placed them gently on a seat near her. These might fit you, he said. They're clean. Then he walked to the back of the ship and disappeared behind a door. She waited. When she was sure he wasn't coming back soon, she grabbed the clothes, sniffed them. No poison, no blood. Just old cloth and soap. She changed quickly. Her old slave rags were thrown in the corner, like dead skin. The ship beeped. It had landed. The man returned. We're here. Where? She asked, her voice dry. And rough, a quiet moon, he replied. No cities, no traders, just peace. She followed him outside. The air was cold, but clean. The sky was a deep blue, full of soft glowing stars. A small wooden cabin sat in the distance. Smoke rose gently from the chimney. She paused. He looked back. You can stay here as long as you want. No chains, no guards. Still, she followed slowly, like a wounded animal. Inside the cabin was simple. A table, 2 chairs, a bed, a shelf, with books, a kitchen corner. He showed her a small room. You can sleep here. I'll be in the next room. She stepped in. There was a bed with soft sheets, a pillow, and a window looking out at the stars. Why are you doing this? She whispered. He paused in the doorway. Because no one ever did it for me. He left. She sat on the bed. It felt like clouds. Her fingers gripped the blanket tightly. That night, she didn't sleep. She stared at the door, waiting, expecting him to come in, to turn cruel, but he never did. In the morning, there was food. On the table, hot, fresh, real food. He had made it. She ate quietly while he sipped something warm in a cup. He said nothing. Neither did she. Days passed like that. Slow, silent, safe. One afternoon, she walked into the main room and saw a book on the table. She picked it up. It was about humans, their wars, their pain, their hope. She turned the pages slowly. The man noticed. You like to read? She nodded. Just a little. There are more, he said, pointing to the shelf. Take any you want. She didn't know what to say. No one had ever given her a choice before. That night, she asked, What's your name? He looked up from his cup. They call me Jace. She nodded. I don't remember mine, she said quietly. He didn't press. He just replied, Then maybe, one day you can choose one. She looked at him for a long time. This human wasn't like the others. Still, deep inside her, the fear stayed. Sleeping, waiting. But now, something else was growing too. A question. Could this be real? The night was too quiet. The stars outside the window blinked like tiny eyes, watching her. The wind made soft sounds through the wooden cabin walls. She sat on the bed, legs pulled close, arms wrapped tight around herself. She had been here for 6 nights now, and he still hadn't touched her. He hadn't locked the door. He hadn't asked for anything, not even her name. It didn't make sense. No one was this kind without a price. So she waited for the mask to fall, for the monster to come out. But it didn't. And that scared her more than anything. That night, something inside her broke. She couldn't take the waiting anymore. She couldn't breathe in this calm. It felt fake. A trap. She slipped out of bed. Slowly, quietly. Her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor. She opened the door. No alarm, no voice, just wind. She stepped outside. The moon above the forest was large and red. The trees below looked like dark hands, reaching up toward the sky. She ran, through tall grass, over sharp rocks. She didn't stop. Not until the cabin was far behind her, swallowed by shadows. Her lungs burned, her feet bled, but she didn't care, only knew one thing. Freedom meant running. But the forest had its own rules, and she didn't know them. She stepped on something soft, then sticky, then snapped. The ground opened. Thorny vines shot out like snakes, wrapped around her arms, legs, waist. She screamed as they pulled her upward, hanging her in the air. She struggled. The more she fought, the tighter they held. One vine wrapped around her throat. She gasped. Then a sound, boots, rushing through the leaves. She saw him, Jace. His coat flapped behind him as he raised a glowing blade. No hesitation, no questions. He slashed the vines. One by one. She dropped, hit the ground hard. Then nothing. When she opened her eyes, she was back in the cabin. Blanket, warmth, firelight. She tried to sit up. Don't, his voice said. She looked. Jace sat nearby, his arm wrapped in a bandage. Blood showed through the cloth. You ran, he said, not angry, just tired. She looked away. I know. I thought you would hurt me. I know. She bit her lip. Why did you come after me? He looked into the fire. Because I made a promise. Not to you, to myself. She didn't speak. He stood. I won't stop you if you want to leave, but the forest isn't safe. Not alone, not yet. She looked at his arm. You're hurt. He smiled a little. It'll heal. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. Not cold. Not heavy. It was gentle. Like the pause between breaths. Later that night, she whispered, I'm sorry. He didn't reply. But when she woke up the next morning, there was a bowl of fruit beside her bed. And this time, she smiled. Just a little. She had just learned how to smile again. But peace doesn't last long in a universe that profits from pain. It began with a strange sound in the sky. A low, distant hum, deep and steady, like a beast growling far away. She stepped outside the cabin. The wind was still. The trees weren't moving. But something in the air had changed. Then she saw it. A ship. Small, black, silent, hovering above the forest like a shadow. Her heart dropped. She knew that ship. She had seen it before. From inside. A cage. She ran inside. Jace, he was already loading a weapon. You saw it too? She asked. Panic in her voice. He nodded once. Slaver class. Fast. Scanning tech. She felt her knees weaken. They've come for me. He looked at her. Calm but sharp. Or maybe. For both of us. He handed her a small metal device. Put this in your pocket. If I tell you to run, you run north. Hit the button. It'll send a signal. My friend owes me a ride. But what about you? She asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the floor panel of the cabin and pulled out 2 small backpacks, emergency gear. You said you didn't want to be owned. He said, you still mean that? She looked at him, then nodded. Then, stay close, he said. No more running alone. Outside, the ship began to descend. It didn't land. It hovered, just above the trees. From it, 3 dark figures dropped down like insects, armored, armed, and glowing red. Jace grabbed her hand. Stay behind me. He walked out slowly, hands raised. The slavers approached. Their armor looked organic, part machine, part skin. One of them laughed. Well, the human war dog himself, the tallest one said. The second one looked at the girl. And the half-breed, she still breathes. That's rare. Jace didn't blink. She's free now. Free. The slaver laughed again. Everything has a price. Human. Even your quiet little moon. He pulled out a small device and showed a hologram. A photo of her. Chain's blood. A price above her head. 10,000 credits. Dead or alive. She stepped back. I didn't know they were still hunting me. They're not just hunting you, Jace said. They want what you escaped with. She shook her head. I escaped with nothing. He glanced at her. You sure about that? The slaver aimed his weapon. Move aside, Jace. We'll take the girl. You can keep your life. Jace smiled. A cold, dangerous smile. You forgot who I was. He moved like lightning. 1 shot. Then another. Then he vanished into smoke. She dropped behind a rock, hands over her head. Lasers lit up the trees. The night exploded with sound. She watched through her fingers as Jace moved between shadows, firing with precision. 1 slaver fell. Then another. But the third was fast. Too fast. He caught Jace in the shoulder with a stun shot. Jace fell to 1 knee. The slaver raised his gun again and screamed. The girl didn't know how she did it. She just screamed back, not with her voice, with her mind. A wave of sound and light burst from her body. Pure, silver energy. That trees bent. The ground shook. The slaver flew backward, into a tree, and didn't move again. Silence returned. Smoke drifted through the forest. Jace stood slowly, holding his shoulder. He looked at her. You're not just anyone, are you? She was shaking. I didn't mean to. I don't know what that was. He nodded. You're part of something bigger. They knew that. That's why they never let you go. She looked down at her hands. Am I dangerous? He walked to her, placed a hand gently on her shoulder. No, he said. You're just learning who you really are. She looked up at him, eyes wide. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of herself. She couldn't sleep after the fight. Not because of fear, because of questions. How did she release that power? What was she? And more importantly, who exactly was he? Jace had gone quiet again. His shoulder was wounded, wrapped in a fresh bandage. But his silence was deeper this time. Like something was heavy inside him. Something he didn't want her to see. He sat by the fire most of the night, staring into the flames. She stayed in her room, pretending to sleep, but her eyes were open. When the cabin was still, and his breathing deepened, she moved. Not to run, but to find answers. She walked softly across the floor, past the cold table, slipped into his room. It was simple, just like him. Bed, chair, weapons rack. But then, she saw something strange. A hidden panel on the wall, almost invisible. She pressed it, clicked. It opened. Inside was a case, metal, locked with a palm scan. But next to it was a worn book. She pulled it out. The cover was cracked, The pages old and soft. It wasn't just a book. It was a journal. She opened it. The first page read, Jace Corinne, Unit 77, Black Ops. Mission log sealed. Her hands trembled. This wasn't just any man. He was a soldier. No, an assassin. Flipped through the pages. Photos, sketches, handwritten notes, maps, alien symbols, and then a picture. Her eyes stopped. It was her, but not the her of now, a younger version. In a lab, wires in her skin, eyes wide with terror. Beneath it, Jace had written, Test Subject 47A, one of only 3 survivors, high potential, should have been destroyed. I couldn't let it happen. Her breath caught. Destroyed. He was there, in the lab. He knew her before the auction, before the cage, before everything. She stepped back, shaking footsteps. She turned. He was standing in the doorway, eyes shadowed. Not surprised. You found it, he said quietly. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because I thought you'd leave, he said. You lied. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell the whole story. Were you going to kill me? He shook his head. No, I was sent to, but I didn't. I saw you, and I knew they were wrong. Who were they? Humans, he said. Our side. The military. They made your kind in secret. Spliced alien DNA. Built weapons out of children. I was one of the men who cleaned up the mess. Her voice broke. So I was. A mistake. No, he said, stepping forward. You were a miracle, but they couldn't control you, so they wanted you gone. Then why buy me from the auction? She asked. Why now? He looked at her with pain in his eyes. Because I failed you once. I couldn't stop the lab from falling into slaver hands. I didn't know you were still alive until I saw you that day. Caged, chained. For 10 credits. Silence filled the room like smoke. She dropped the journal. Her heart felt too full. Anger, confusion, fear, and something else. Something even worse. Hope. Because part of her still wanted to believe he wasn't just another monster in disguise. She looked at him. Can you promise me one thing? He nodded slowly. If I ever lose control again, if I become one of them, you stop me, no matter what. His voice was soft. But sure, I will. And if you forget who you are, I'll remind you. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Okay. They stood in silence. 2 broken weapons. Trying to be something more than what they were built to be. The sky was on fire. Bright orange trails streaked. Above the treetops tracking flares. A second later, they heard the boom. Then the sound of wings. Mechanical ones. Drones. Double quotes. They found us again, Jace said, teeth clenched. He dragged the girl by the hand as they ran through the thick alien forest. How? She shouted, dodging branches. We jumped planets. They updated the bounty. Someone's leaking our location. She didn't ask who. She already knew. The answer, someone out there wanted her back. And now, both their heads were on the list, dead or alive. They didn't stop running. Behind them, lights cut through the fog cold, green lights sweeping low through the trees. Search beams left, Jace shouted. They dove into a dry riverbed, crawled under thick roots, waited. The drones passed over just barely. She was shaking, not from fear, from something else. Her blood felt hot, her vision sharp, that power inside her. It was waking again. I can fight, she whispered. Not yet, he said. You're not ready. I am. You're not. His voice was hard, but his hand, resting lightly on her back, stayed gentle. They moved again. An hour passed. Then at last, they reached a hidden cave. Jace had set it up weeks ago. Emergency food, medical kits. A hidden panel on the wall held weapons. She sank down, gasping. Jace didn't sit. He checked the cave entrance, then turned on a small radio. Device. Buzz. Static. A coded voice replied. Tracking confirmed. 1 human, 1 asset. Payment doubles if captured alive. Her stomach dropped. She looked at Jace. They're calling me an asset now. He nodded slowly. They always did. She felt something rise in her chest. Not sadness. Not fear. Rage. I'm not a thing, she said. I know, he replied. No, she said. Standing up, they need to know too. She stepped toward the back of the cave where the weapons were stored. I'm done hiding. He stepped in front of her. You don't know what happens when you use your power, he said. Not fully. Last time, you blacked out. She stared him down. Maybe, I need to. He saw something in her eyes. A storm. A choice already made. He moved aside. She picked up a gauntlet from the shelf. It was alien tech linked to her DNA. She put it on. The symbols lit up, responding to her touch. Her blood. She wasn't human. Not fully. But not a slave anymore. Either. She was something new. Across the forest, a group of bounty hunters landed silently. They were armored, quiet, deadly. One of them knelt down and touched the ground. Footprints too. Another checked a scanner, reading unstable energy spikes. Definitely her. The leader smiled beneath his helmet. Tell command, we'll have her in less than 2 hours. Back in the cave, Jace checked his rifle. Looked at her once more. Still, sure about this. She nodded. They think I'm running, she said. Let's show them I'm not. They left the cave and climbed to high ground, a ridge overlooking the Bet Valley. Then they waited. The first shot came from the trees, barely missed her shoulder. She rolled, ducked behind a rock. Jace returned fire. 2 bounty hunters went down, instantly, but more came. They were surrounded. Lasers lit up the trees. Heat filled the air. Then, something snapped in her chest. Like a door opening, she stood up, eyes glowing silver, hands crackling with energy. She didn't scream this time. She just stepped forward, and released it. A pulse. White hot and soundless. The trees shook. The hunters froze, paralyzed by invisible force. One by one, their weapons fried, their visors cracked. Then silence. Smoke. Stillness. Jace stared at her. She breathed hard but didn't fall this time. She stood strong. He walked toward her. Slow. You controlled it, he said, amazed. She looked at her hands. I didn't feel afraid. No, he said. You felt angry. She nodded. But anger isn't your strength, he added. Control is. She didn't answer. But for the first time she felt it. Not fear, not pain, not power, purpose. The war wasn't declared, it just began. One scream, one blast of silver light. One girl who had nothing left to lose. That was all it took. Now she stood at the edge of a battlefield she never chose. The ground was broken. Burned ash floated in the air like snow. Ships circled above, casting long shadows. In the center of it all, her. Not running, not hiding, not chained. Jace stood beside her, rifle strapped, armor scarred, face calm. Below them, in the valley, the slaver army waited. They had numbers, tech, drones, walkers. But what they didn't have was her will. The commander of the slavers stepped forward. His voice rang through a speaker. Return the girl. You'll both walk away. She took one step forward. No, she said, loud and clear. The commander laughed. You're just a weapon, girl. A mistake in a lab. You belong to us. She raised her hand and let the energy rise again. Not wild this time. Not angry. Controlled. I don't belong to anyone. The sky lit up. Silver met fire. The battle began. Jace moved first, covering the left flank. He shot clean, fast, never missing. He wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was fighting beside her. She walked through chaos like a ghost of light. Her power flowed like water sliding through machines, disarming drones, knocking soldiers to the ground without killing them. She didn't want death. She wanted freedom. More slavers came. Heavy armor, bio-weapons. She stumbled. Her knees buckled. Then a voice. Stand up, Jace said through the cum. You've already come this far. She stood, because she had a reason now, and they couldn't take that. Not again. Flashback. A girl in chains. Cold floor. Wires in her skin. Men in white coats. Notes on clipboards. She's unstable. She's just a prototype. Erased her. Start again. But she didn't forget. Now, that same girl stood in front of them, alive, glowing, fierce. Not unstable. Not a prototype. A person. The final wave came. Dozens of troops. Faster, smarter, armored with anti-energy tech. Jace was hit. Fell behind a rock. She ran to him, pulling him up. I'm okay, he groaned. You have to finish it. She looked at the army. Then back at him. I'm not a weapon, she whispered. But I'll fight for those who never got to choose. She raised both hands. And this time she didn't push her power out. Like a blast, she spread it gently. Like light from a sunrise. The soldiers stopped. The weapons, short-circuited. The tech failed. And a voice moved through the air. Calm. Strong hers. You don't need to follow monsters anymore. One by one, the army dropped their weapons. It was over. Not because she destroyed them, but because she gave them a choice. Hours later, silence returned to the valley. Jace lay on a stretcher, bandaged, breathing steady. She sat beside him. He opened one eye. Did we win? She smiled. No one owns anyone now. I call that a win. He chuckled, then grimaced in pain. Next time, you get shot. She laughed. The first real laugh in a long time. Then, slowly, she stood and looked at the stars. So many paths, so many places to go. And this time, they were hers to choose. Jace sat up slightly. You still don't remember your name? She shook her head. No, but I don't need the old one. He nodded. Then what will you call yourself now? She thought for a moment, then answered. Free. I was sold for 10 credits, raised in a cage, trained to break. But someone saw more in me, and now, I walk with no chains. I am not a weapon, not property, not theirs. I am free.